Good afternoon. Hello, everyone. My name is Rich Longo, and I'll be your host for today's presentation. I want to thank you for joining us for another Flycast Partners webinar. Today's webinar topic is on asset management, presented by our own Michael Durrant. Now, Michael is an experienced pre-sales senior solutions consultant with extensive experience in collaborating with clients on IT strategies. He is a proven leader that is a result-driven, motivated professional with extensive experience in spearheading the management, design development, implementation, and testing of major IT solutions. Recognized leader in effectively translating major business objectives into high-impact technical solutions, and he's a commitment to helping organizations such as yours achieve maximum benefit from their IT investment through team leadership, strategy, execution, and commitment to quality. With well over 18 IT years of experience, fast approaching 20, and a reputation for dedicated teamwork, high energy work ethic, and commitment to customer service, is an adept in analyzing your needs and collaborating effectively with clients, assessing needs and resolving issues. Conscientious and dependable, and completing projects within the appropriate time frame. Before we get started, Michael, let me introduce our organization. Most of you probably already know. For those of you that don't, Flycast Partners is here to deliver a seriously amazing IT experience. We were founded and staffed by personnel that have many, many years of experience in the IT space. We took the best ideas from all these collective experiences and added the best components necessary to grow and become one of the leading value-added resellers in the entire North American IT market. We offer best-in-class implementation services and training in IT service management, IT asset management, IT operations management, and workload automation, as well as enterprise service management, all using nothing but ITIL best practice. Our professional services team can easily scale up or down to meet the IT needs of any customer, regardless of your size, complexity, or budgetary restrictions. We offer implementation services both on-site and remote, as well as training to help reinforce your company's long-term IT success. Our ongoing remote administration and support service offerings will enable your organization to focus on those normal day-to-day operations, saving you both precious time and money. I want to point out that you can contact us at any time at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278, or reach out to us at info@flycastpartners.com. Please take the time to visit our website at www.flycastpartners.com and check out future webinars that you may be interested, or maybe your coworkers are interested in. You'll notice that when we launch the new year, we're going to start right out with that organizational change management topic, followed up by cloud security. Please feel free to share these with your coworkers. I also encourage you to check out some of the cool new tools that we have out here, some of the training, some of the other opportunities that you might want to take advantage of as far as our professional services and our project management team. With that being said, Michael, I think it's time to turn this over to you. What do you think? Are you there, Michael? Maybe he's just on mute. Let me unmute him.
Yep,
Michael, I've just unmuted.
I am.
There you are. There we are. Good deal.
Thank you, Rich. Awesome introduction. Awesome introduction. Let me go ahead and share on my screen.
Okay, very good. And while you're doing that, how are you doing today? How's the weather where you're at?
I'm doing fine. You might hear a little tickle in my voice. I'm in Georgia, and there's always that some sort of allergies going around.
Oh no!
Here in Georgia, so but we'll get past it. I think I got it cleared.
Good deal. Excellent.
Let me go ahead and share my screen here.
While he's doing that, I want to thank all those of you that have decided to join us today, because I'm looking and we have people from all over North America on here today. We have them from Quebec. We have them from Alaska. We have them from Ontario. We have folks from Texas, California, Florida, and even Iowa and Idaho are represented. So thank you, folks, for taking time out of your busy day to join us. We have a full house. We're fast approaching our limits here for today's webinar. That's exciting stuff, isn't it, Michael?
It is. And again, Rich, thank you for that great introduction. Just wanted to do a quick check. Can you guys hear me okay? And can you see my screen?
I hear and see everything fine. And as we're moving forward with this, I want to remind our audience that Michael will take your questions live today. I encourage you to please type your questions in the Q&A section of this WebEx, and I'll read them off to Michael at the most appropriate times, and we'll get some answers for you live. So please don't be afraid to ask questions. This is your time. This is your forum. And with that, I'll let you take it away, Michael.
Thank you, Rich. Again, thank you for that great introduction. And yep, I'm Michael Durrant. And, today we're going to have a discussion around ITAM. And I'll be using a product from Avanti, a company that I have worked for before they were Avanti. So I figure I'll give you a quick introduction of the company, and then we'll go into the ITAM disciplines. I've had some experience with audits in the past with multiple companies and seen some unique things, which I'll share in stories along the way in this demonstration. And I promise we'll get through some slides and we'll get into some product as well. So I'll show you how Avanti can help you in with this discipline. All right, so I figure I'll just give you a little background about Avanti. They've been established in 1985. Their headquarters in Salt Lake City. They're still privately owned by Clear Lake Capital. Over 1,700 employees in 1,800 countries. Over 13,000 plus customers. Quite a large partner system, one of the largest I've seen from a vendor. And I'm proud to announce that we are Partner of the Year. So we got that recognition. So that's a pretty proud moment for Flycast. And with IT, we understand that there's lots of approaches, right? And Avanti has strategically acquired some best of breed applications and have been working on integrations. And one of those will be with our ITAM solution and service management. So what you would see today in the demonstration is something that's tightly knit. So that'll give me a good segue into my next slide here. So to sort of give you, as we begin this conversation, to sort of give you the strategy, behind that integrated, unified IT approach that Avanti is bringing with its portfolio. We're looking to work together, and seamless to provide that extraordinary capability, optimization, reduce complexity, drive out that unwanted cost. And I want to point that out, that unneeded cost, because in the middle of this all is asset management, right? As IT organizations, as businesses, we may be facing an audit. We may be, starting to get an understanding of our assets. We need to know, manage our asset life cycle. And also this all rolls up into that end user approach. So the Avanti approach is to bring this portfolio on an integrated platform offered to you from the cloud. With business value dashboards that you can utilize from within the tool. In my experience, being able to bring some of this that meaningful information to the executive level meant that we were standing up multiple systems. We needed SQL developers. We needed different applications to provide dashboards and reports, and that required a lot of manpower. So we kind of talk about that because I know, many of you that's on this call are going to be in different stages, of asset management. You may be just starting. You may be facing an audit. You maybe have just went through one. So let's kind of dive into some of those topics. ITAM basics. So what is ITAM, right? What is this all about? Let's look at some of those components. Let's look at in how Avanti follows those best practices to bring a solution to you that you can utilize and become efficient in these processes. So there are two key disciplines in that are relevant to asset management. First is that operational focus, right? I've worked on the desk. I understand, what it meant to discover, and identify. I understood. I also, built packages for large organizations where we had, major moves, ads, upgrades, changes. We had to manage all of that. We had to sort of understand, and be ready for when the business required that. So, from an asset management standpoint, that's operational. Supporting those devices, making sure those devices are where they need to be at the time they need to be there, and understanding, and being able to support that. Now, there's another side to asset management, and that's the fiscal, contractual, and strategic needs. So, the businesses needs to understand, or needs to procure these assets. Vendor management, contracts, compliance, regulatory, financial accountability, understanding, where your assets are, who owns it, what maybe what division of that business owns it, when was it purchased, so that we can optimize those assets, stay within, policy, controlling that, governance, risk, security, with the invent of GDPR, and obviously we've been, chasing PCI, HIPAA, SOX type audits. We need to be able to understand what's on these systems, where did they come from, when were they purchased. What we're seeing today is this, security departments are needing to know what hardware is in a company's environment, what software is in a company's environment, what's on that particular asset, who owns it, where it is, where it's being used. So, this is becoming more and more complex for your organization to manage. So, at Avanti, we understand this. We follow these disciplines. So let's look at a process in which this starts, and maybe you can align with certain aspects of this process. So let's start with the asset repository. This is sort of where everything starts. And with according to best practice, we should have this should all start with a request. And this is where service management comes in, right? Offering that service catalog. And that's why we looked at, in the integration between these two platforms. So understanding that asset request, that request management, whether it needs to go through maybe an approval, notifications has to be sent out. Do we have it in stock? If we don't, do we need to purchase it? So let's talk about purchasing. Now, purchasing is really, the center of the universe of managing assets. So the reason I say this is, obviously sitting on, in multiple organizations using, very powerful tools like, the EPM solution that Avanti offers for discovery, software deployment, patching, antivirus, all of that type of control. I always felt like, I had a good handle on my inventory. And quite often, we'll get questions like, how's your asset management? And we're like, well, we're managing. We know we have agents out there. We have, and they ask for a count, and we say, well, okay, so we have 20,000 endpoints or 40,000 endpoints, and we'll get asked questions like, well, what if you had 25,000? What if you purchased 25,000? What if you purchased 45,000? Where are those other 5,000? And then there's sort of this dead silence in the room, right? Well, that's a concern. That's a huge concern. So if you think about it, we really need to know what we own, right? Because once we know what we own, what we've procured, we can then use discovery tools, as a way to validate this information. All right, so you can use tools like SCCM, EPM. If some people are using spreadsheets to sort of validate this information and do sort of a cross comparison. So you can understand what you have out there. Once you have the discovery tools, you get that physical inventory. Put an agent on that device, so you can have a variety of agents, like I mentioned. Whether it's Alteris, EPM, SCCM. So that we can have this information brought into an asset manager and distribute it accordingly from there. Obviously, from the Avanti perspective, we support whatever you're telling us about those assets. As I mentioned, SCCM. Those are discovery tools. Of course, we believe that the Avanti solution, the discovery solution, is best of breed. So, any of those tools can be used so you can understand, things like location. You can support them from a maintenance standpoint, from an incident standpoint, so you can, get those systems functioning correctly. And that's the other side, right? So as part of this ITAM repository, as you start the life cycle, so you've identified the machine, you've purchased it, you've received it, it's now in the wild, you discovered it, you've validated that information, now you started the life of that system. And there's the other side to asset management that deals with, compliance, contracts. Do we have software entitlements? Are we up to date with that? Are we compliant? Are we up to speed with regulatory demands? Can we track HIPAA, SOX, PCI, GDPR? Can we forecast? Can we plan? So many times, you talk to executives and you hear them say, I don't know what it costs. I don't know who's using it. No ability to, drive accountability enterprise-wide. So, I've been through audits. I've seen, and had those discussions with different departments, project managers, business planners, contract departments, and they seem to be all siloed, I was able to provide very rich information around details for my discovery, but then came in that procurement side, contracts, purchasing, all that fun stuff. So turned into be some really, really long days of putting that all together. So in today's demonstration, we'll talk about process. We'll show, within the tool, how we can help, with this huge part of ITAM. I can show you the best tool in the world. I can show you lots of automation. I can show you ways in which you can optimize your environment through the information that we're providing for you and the automation behind it. But what it all boils down to is process. Process is a huge part of your ITAM discipline. Gartner tells us it's 80% process and 20% tool. We also found that to be true. I've also experienced that myself in these audits and seeing where these processes are totally broken down. The ability to provide governance and policy and procedure. Tools can be limiting. So you see in this solution, we have the ability to generate automation workloads, processes, governance to make sure you can deliver, the necessary details around this discipline. So, again, our solutions around asset management, heavily focused and guided by several industry best practices. One of which is ITAM, this organization, which we believe to sit on the forefront, of setting best practices and standards, policies, practice libraries. You can get certification classes from this organization, to understand best practices for ITAM. You can, it's product agnostic. So, you'd see those disciplines in obviously visible in our products because we follow these best practices. And as we deliver these to you, we intend to deliver these out of the box, out of the cloud, so you can take advantage of connecting to these solutions, and we will do the work to provide, those disciplines for you. And how do we do that? The objective here is, to provide our customers with sort of that robust, out-of-the-box cloud experience, through integrations, so you can connect to that data, those data elements, and provide value around things like your asset requests, your catalogs, stock management, invoicing, shipments, understanding the full life cycle of, your asset management. So, I thought it would be fair to sort of, go through I promise, a couple more slides before we get into the actual application itself, to sort of talk about, some of my experiences with what executives care about with ITAM. So, again, we talked about those different focuses, the operational focus, the fiscal focus, the financial focus. And let's kind of look at those sort of questions that I've kind of summarized here. That we see that are consistent across a lot of these executives. Asset availability and performance, we'll sort of dissect each of these. Cost of ownership and allocation, so understanding, who bought what and where can we do chargebacks and that type of stuff. Are we compliant? Again, in terms of GDPR, PCI, HIPAA, and also from a contractual standpoint with the usage of the software that we have. How is the end user experience? Are we scalable? Do we have accountability in understanding what we've purchased and why? So let's sort of break this down really quick. Asset availability and performance. What are those typical sort of subtopics? I don't know what we, supposed to have. No. It's sort of like, there's no connection between, discovery, operation, and there's no integration between sort of purchasing. And there's no understanding of what your user base requires through maybe like a request format. I don't know who's using it. So again, lack of discovery. I don't know if we're meeting our needs. So there's no information around how these assets are performing. What do they cost? Are they in compliant, which can be, if they're not, can be extremely costly. And again, simply has no, exposure. Just all they hear about is those complaints and the hey, we need to buy this, we need to buy that. So again, a huge concern for those C-levels in understanding those specific area. Cost of ownership, a huge one. What is it really costing me? Because when you think of cost of ownership, you just can't think of I saved $300 and purchasing 10 laptops as opposed to 5. Well, there's maintenance agreements. There's work that needs to be done on that laptop that may cost you outside of, your maintenance agreement. So something may have happened that it's not part of your agreement, like somebody dropped a laptop or something of that sort, And without this powerful information, this meaningful, information, how can you defend your budgets? How can you use, what data can you use, in how do you trust this data in being able to defend your budgets and achieve your goals? Obviously, contract and compliance, pretty straightforward. I've been through a couple of audits, so trying to understand, what we have, where it is, who purchased it, are we within compliance? Are we using what we purchased? Are we maximizing and honoring these contracts? Are we, within regulations? These known risks, what I've experienced is having a good relationship with security and being able to provide them meaningful information. They require it, they demand it, so being able to provide that, can help them, with mitigating risks and providing meaningful information to executives along those topics. And user experience. So, how many of you have experienced, onboarding processes and offboarding processes, knowing who has what? That can be extremely costly to organizations. And also, I've been part of IT organizations and having specific tasks to create maybe a software package for a specific user or department. So I've seen what those onboarding processes involve. So being able to have inventory stock levels to provide in those processes, so we'll know if we need to order something or if we need to do any procurement of those services for this end user. We quite often hear end users saying, it's taking too long, we need self-service capability. Refreshes, asset refreshes. I've been part of, going from Windows XP to Windows 7. I know that dates me a little bit, but I'm sure there are organizations out there, that are still on maybe, Windows 7 or even Windows XP. How can we innovate and be behind the curve? All of this will roll up into what we call shadow IT. Right, I think most of us have experienced that, where your end user has a consumer side. Things like Dropbox, Google Drive. Just sort of sharing information outside of IT because they don't want to use that FTP drive. It's too slow. It doesn't give me enough space. It's not easy to use. It's not intuitive. So all of that stuff would roll up into shadow IT. Scale the business. Without being able to provide the necessary information, we can't measure how successful we are. So there's no way to sort of reduce manpower. Those are the questions. How can we do more with less? Remove that complexity, too many disparate systems. Obviously, we understand the digital market today, where we simply have to keep up with that. A huge part of that is the assets. An end user 10 years ago used a machine on a desk. Today, there's no desk, and that end user has 5 different, machines. So we have to keep up with that and understand, how do we manage those uses of license, how we can be efficient, so that we can forecast for growth to scale the business. Enterprise fiscal accountability. So again, I show we that when I first saw that IT black hole. That's for many of you who've seen what's that program called, the IT service. It's an English program where they move IT to the basement. When a device comes in, IT is sort of hey, we can discover it. It's out to XY user. But we don't have any purchasing information because we're not connected to that system. We don't know how to charge back. We don't know how to hand off those details to that that team. And what you'd see today with this solution is in ways in which we can handle that. So the goal of this solution, is to help shift, the business to that IT service model. What end users are accustomed to, what they're coming from that consumer role into your IT organization. So, before we get into the demonstration, just to kind of summarize this, this is all about, the heart of sort of service management, asset management, and where, we can help things around mitigate risks, reduce costs around usage, be more efficient, and this all rolls up into more time for to be strategic. So with that said, we will get into the demonstration. All right. Can you guys see my screen okay? Rich?
It looks fine from my vantage point. I couldn't get off of mute. I'm sorry. Yeah, it looks fine.
Awesome. So what you're looking at here is a cloud service, asset essentials, that one of the things that I've seen Avanti strive to do is provide you with meaningful information. So I'm logged in as an asset manager, and I have a home landing page that allows me to get to different workspaces like my repository, product catalogs, purchase orders, all of the relevant areas that will be for an asset manager and asset managers in different areas of asset management. So I can see things like my asset by type. I can also see things by financial owner. I can also see, the distribution of these assets. I can see, asset types that hasn't checked in within certain time. As a using some of these tools, this is quite important to me because again, it's discovery, right? It's all dependent on when that last machine was discovered. So you can have end users that are on vacation, maybe just has the machine turned off somewhere and not, sending that information back. But this information is relevant around, having those business intelligent, meetings and conversations. So, I can actually sit down and interact with this data. This is live data that I can say, hey, we're having a discussion around contracts, computers, laptops, desktops, and I can have that focus, that point around that particular data. So again, this data could be coming from, endpoint manager, bringing in all sorts of information, software that's just been discovered, patch information, and we'll take a look at that here in a second. As you can see here, there are different dashboards. So there's a world of dashboards available that I can take advantage of. I can look at, I can just select them all, just add these to my dashboards, and when I go back to my home page, I'll have all of those dashboards available. So I can see things like vendor scorecards, software products. I can even look at stock levels across the globe. So let's say I'm looking at stock levels of this particular item. I can see that it's in the storage space within the London storage space. I can see what type it is, what subtype, asset information. All of that good stuff is right at my fingertips. Another area that we have is the asset repository. So here I can have, different types of assets. And in these assets, these can all be, procured and or brought into an inventory type manner. To give you an example of what we collect on an asset, to sort of summarize this for you from an asset manager standpoint. So from the aspect of an asset, we have the asset summary, right? The name, the asset tag, the serial number, a little image of the asset, and details on that asset, right? Who's what subtype, what catalog it came from, what manufacturer, asset model, description, all of that good stuff, even all the way to policies associated with this asset. So what I mean by that is maybe regulations, is there sensitive information on this asset? Does it have to follow regulatory settings? So what's the risk against this particular asset? And what's this good for is, when I'm running reports against specific assets, I can use a lot of these attributes to sort of summarize and filter against, assets in showing specific data. You can also add things like custom attributes to these assets, so that you can identify them, according to those specific attributes. We talked about discovery. So here's where you can, sort of collaborate what you have done in terms of assigned values. So you'd see here that I have assigned this to Alan Taylor. And I could have done that through the asset details. But my discovery tool is bringing in that it's, the last login is Bill. So, I can make some decisions based on that. It also tells me that, I'm saying that this is supposed to be in Europe, but it's telling me that it is in North America. So our tool has the ability to do location mapping. So we can see exactly where that asset is as part of the information that we're collecting for you that may be relevant to maybe something in the CMDB, operational side of your asset manager. From the software side of things, we do collect that as well. Again, we're summarizing all of that into this sort of asset view. These are relationships, so these can be removed if some of this information can also be presented via a permission base. And what this tab is presenting is a quick listing on those the applications that are installed. And based on these applications that are installed, we can then take this information to a new level. We can then take this to our sister product through integration to ILO, in which we can sort of see exactly how each of these applications are being used. So doing audits, one of the unique things that I saw was end users sort of launching everything. So we wanted to see, full synopsis of how things are being used. We're already collecting that through the software inventory and displaying it here. We can use that data to roll that up. These user assets, so what we'll do is roll up, as you saw in the details, the discovery, the assigned user is Alan. So if Alan has any additional assets, we'll see those here as well, and see them all listed here. Relationships within the environment. So we can see in a sort of that tree view what this server supports in terms of a service, whether it's email or, and what computers would sort of hang off of that. So based on our discovery tool or any other event tools that you have through integration, we can provide that here for you. There's also contracts, right? So there's, contract management. There's a contract workspace in here where you can manage your contracts from different levels, whether it's an entitlement contract, a purchase contract, a maintenance contract, and just sort of show you what this encompasses. I have some tools in which I can link and unlink these contracts because obviously, when I supported maybe a server, I wanted to see what that maintenance was. Purchasing may not have been important to me, but that's okay. It's all sort of collaborated here together because each area rolls up to this asset. And it's important to, in procuring this machine and understanding, costs to roll up to this machine. So at any time, I can go out to that actual contract and see the purchase details on there. See things like additional assets that are tied to this contract. So sort of get that holistic view on the entire contract, initial costs, when it was purchased, any purchase orders associated with this as well, any termination details, all of this rolls up into that sort of contract management, which is associated with the asset itself. Vendors. So there's also vendor management. There's a vendor workspace in here that, we can do vendor management, not just necessarily from providing contacts, but providing useful information, right? So what I mean by that is, what's tied to this vendor contact information and where they are and all that good stuff and how to contact them is also a vendor scorecard. So this will make it important when it comes to things like negotiation. So as you interact with that vendor for this particular product, this area gives you the ability to create sort of that history of the interaction with the vendor. So when you get to something like a negotiation, you would have the necessary information, right? You don't have to rely on some notes you had somewhere in an email and sort of collaborate that. You can, record that directly here. We talked about the fiscal part of asset management. So this is where we offer the ability for you to display your purchasing details, what your purchase order information in which we can obviously go to. I showed you there a little while ago. So from all aspects of the product, you'll be able to navigate to different areas. Tells you what vendor, what SKU, when it was purchased, freight information, all that good stuff that will be relevant, obviously, to asset management when you're procuring this particular device. Also, what's important is in the life cycle is the cost, right? What is the total cost? What's the market value, salvage value? So you can then roll up your depreciation. However you calculate that, we can create calculated values in each of these fields, so you can roll that into sort of your depreciation value, so you can understand, when something needs to be disposed, what the value is. Things of that nature. Now, what's also important, as I mentioned earlier, is understanding total cost of ownership. So, your purchase order is where your acquisition of this device started, what your annual maintenance is. Those are sort of set values. Those are sort of understanding, maybe, when I need to renew and what it actually cost me upon acquisition, and any maintenance fees. But you may have, a one-off here and there. So you may, have a specific cost of something. Who knows? Maybe you dropped it to something. It's a laptop. So you've saved some money up front based on what you purchased this system with. But you may have some additional costs. And what the system does for you is sort of allows you to record that. And then it gives you a total, so you can understand total cost of ownership of that device. Quite often I've seen that, where customers will come into the desk and say, hey, I have a broken screen, and now we are out of warranty with maybe a Mac or whatever that is, and that will then not be recorded somewhere, and we sort of not know where that is. We're also allowing you to journal things, so memos of this for this device, any attachments, maybe a user manual, inventory transactions, so where it's checked in, where it's checked out, so part of the life cycle. If it went to Paris, corporate office, London, Europe, wherever it's going, you can sort of keep tabs on that. If you're using a scan tool, something like I don't know, WASP or one of our wavelength tools, you can through integration, sort of scan those and have that scan log. So every time that device asset tag is scanned, you would have that information sort of presented here. So, lots of information available to you, in terms of being able to manage your assets and have a life cycle there. I've spoken a lot. I think we're close to the end here, and hopefully there's some questions, and then I'll go ahead and open up for some questions.
Unfortunately, right now, Michael, we do not have any questions. So, audience, if you do have some questions, please, by all means, type those in the Q&A section. I'll read them off to Michael, and he'll definitely answer them for you right now live. This is a great opportunity to take advantage of the fact that we have Michael on today, and he can answer just about anything you'd like to know about this particular tool. As far as this particular, wait a minute, here we go. We've got our first question. Let me read this here. This comes from Scott. Can you assessing multiple users to a software asset? Assign, that's what he's supposed to say. Can you assign multiple users to software assets?
Absolutely. Yes, you can. So, let's say in your, let's see, we have software products here. Let's see if I have that out of the box. So in my asset repository, let's say I have, Illustrator. Through these, in these relationships, as you can see, I can have entitlement information, contracts. We can just simply add a relationship to employees, and you can link as many as you'd like.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Any other questions, folks? This is the time to ask. Scott says thanks for the answer. He appreciates that. Good deal. Excellent. Any other questions out there, folks? This is the time to ask. If you don't want to ask live, you can email us your questions at info@flycastpartners.com or call us at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278 or email at info@flycastpartners.com. It really does look like we don't have any other questions here today. I guess everybody found out everything they needed to know, Michael.
Yeah, I know ITAM is a huge discipline. I covered a lot. We talked about the journey, and we talked about, being able to help you in terms of the data that we. So hopefully I covered that and I answered questions before they needed to be asked.
Here is another question. Is there direct integration?
So this is
Active Directory integration. That's what it is.
Yes, there is. Absolutely. Yep.
Okay, and that was the last question it looks like we have here. So with that being said, I'm going to thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule, Mr. Durrant, to present to us today and teach us a little bit about the Avanti asset management tool. And audience, thank you so much for taking time out to participate in another Flycast Partners webinar. Your time is very much appreciated. And should you have questions, once again, reach out to us at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. Email us at info@flycastpartners.com, and we'll get back to you within 5 business days or sooner. And with that being said, I'm going to wish everyone on this call, because it is our very last webinar of the year until next year, I'm going to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. All right? And until next year, Merry Christmas to you there, Michael.
Thank you, Rich, and many, many happy returns and Merry Christmas to everyone. Yeah, enjoy holidays and eat lots of cake and drink eggnog.
All right, folks. Until next year, make it a good one.